Let me tell you my story.
My skin is always like this. Let's talk about sex.
And put an end to fossil fuel exploitation to prevent environmental catastrophe.
Have you ever had someone from an older generation reminiscing about back in the day? Telling us their ways of doing things and how easy we have it now. I've noticed how excited people get when they do refer to these old ways and the memories that came with them. I think that's because the ways older generations used to do things. It took longer, was harder to do, and because of the effort involved, memories and connections were built around them. Now, it's very true in most ways our generation has it very easy when it comes to everyday life. We have insane amounts of technology and resources at our disposal that make things a lot simpler. It's extremely nice, but this convenience is coming at a sacrifice. Now, we are reaching heights well beyond whatever could have been imagined. But we have so much more to work with than the great inventors before us, if you think about it. Now, do you think the most technologically advanced people of our time now could come up with the most fundamental inventions of the human race? They are very smart people, but do they have the same level of imagination, creativity, and patience the great inventors before us had? I think that being able to access information very quickly at any time is actually making us a little lazier and dumber. So much more is now left up to machines instead of our minds. Sure, it means we can spurt off information on almost anything at any time and seem pretty intelligent while we do it. But it's taking away the level of motivation and imagination that was needed before the introduction of advanced technology. Now, there is something called Moore's Law, a discovery made by Gordon E. Moore, who is the founder and creator of Intel computer hardware. What he discovered was that since the company created the first integrated computer circuit in 1959, the amount of components in each circuit were doubling yearly, therefore doubling the capabilities of their computers. In other words, what he realized was that their products were helping them create more advanced products. In other words, their computers were helping them create better computers. This is also called autocatalysis. Now, this is constantly happening, whether it's in computers, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and especially robotics. They are self-accelerating. That is, the products of their own process enable them to develop more rapidly. New computer chips are put to work straight away to create the next generation of more powerful ones, which will then go on to do the same thing. This is his law. Now, there's two problems with this. One, it's very unstable, unpredictable, and could reach a level where we cannot stop this rapid expansion. The other problem is something that is happening right now. These new creations and toys make us as a human race seem like we're becoming more intelligent and creative, when really as things get better and more advanced, we as humans and creators are slowly losing our natural ability to be creative, determined, imaginative, and intelligent. Machines are replacing this. Take the motor industry, for example. Once upon a time, the world's largest motor companies would supply more jobs than almost any industry out there. Places like Detroit and Geelong, where I'm from, were held together by the opportunities these companies provided. These days, those factories look like this. Now, this is horrible because not only does it take away jobs from people, but also the connection to the objects around us in our everyday lives, the human connection. Now, I also want to talk to you about the negatives of the ways we are learning from technology. Think about learning to walk. We start by crawling, then we stand, then we take a first step, but we fall. Then we stand up again, holding the coffee table, and attempt to take another step, but fall again. And we do this 1,000 times until eventually we learn to do it. This is the use of trial and error learning, or learning by doing. Now, this is at a very young age, and the child gains so much more than just walking. They build strength, cognitive skills. The brain is tested to send signals to the body, and then the child's cognitive system is then trained to send signals back to the brain about how the environment looks and feels, and how they should react to those environments. Now, these are all crucial learning points that could only really be accomplished by taking all those falls and attempting all those first steps. Now, if you look at websites like WikiHow or YouTube or whatever platform you choose, they cut out some crucial learning points. Learning points that can only come from actually experiencing and failing at what you're trying to do. Now, if you think back to what I was saying about learning to walk, imagine if you could learn to do that online. Skip all the falling and go straight to running. It would make it a lot worse when you slip or stub your toe for the first time. Now, it's not just failing that the internet and modern day technology can cut out. It's also the accidental mistakes that tend to happen when using older technology. Mistakes that turn out to actually teach you a lot. Now, we can learn a lot of information from the internet on almost anything. It has endless and constantly increasing possibilities. It enables you to find exact parts of information on anything at any time. Right now, while we sit here, there's over 1 billion websites live. 37% of it's pornography, but the other 63% can teach you quite a lot. But learning from such a well-developed tool, although it's convenient and saves a lot of time, can also set you back. For instance, learning from a book is a completely different experience. It's slow-paced, in some ways less convenient, and a lot harder on your brain. But you learn and gain a lot more from reading from a book than you would about the same subject off a website. For one, you gain the information by using your brain to separate and know what is important and what is not. You build patience, vocabulary, and imagination, since you create your own visuals most of the time. The most beneficial part of all, though, is you learn so many things you didn't set out to learn, because you have to read through random information in order to get where Google would take you straight away. You also feel a lot more connected to what you've learned as well, because you had to use your own creative mind to know what is important and what is not, and then put it all together yourself. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I say the mistakes. Because older technology has not been perfected in the way we know it now, a lot of mistakes can take place. But sometimes these mistakes that are out of our control in older technology can make what you're doing so much better. Now, something I'm familiar with is my passion for photography and film, which I predominantly use old equipment to do. That being 8mm and 35mm format cameras, analog photography and cinematography. Now, with equipment like this, mistakes are constantly taking place. But sometimes these malfunctions or variables can make the photograph, whether that's too much light being let in, dust, or even a scratch on the film. Sometimes the effects those problems create are better than anything you could ever create on Photoshop. Now, I originally got into these types of camera equipment because I loved the raw, warm, and grainy look it created. I started with 35mm photography because it was the easiest way to start off. Then I moved to 8mm film, which was a whole nother level because the image is actually moving. I really started loving and enjoying these formats of camera though. And what I didn't even realize was because of how much knowledge and time went into my analog photo and cinematography, I was learning insane amounts. Now, there are a lot less settings and buttons for me to worry about, but compared to a digital camera, which I thought would make things easier. But I didn't have a screen to check what the buttons I did press were even doing, or to even check if my clip or photo was any good. This meant I had to really start thinking about my environment and acquire the knowledge to know how to react to those environments. My first couple of rolls I shot were horrible. They were overexposed and out of focus. But each time I shot with my film camera, I was able to look at my photos and then go back knowing what I needed to correct. Another use of trial and error learning. Another thing with these cameras is also that it's all shot on film. So I only had 35 shots I could take, and I didn't have the money to really waste a single one. I had to drive almost an hour in total just to get my film and then spend the time loading and preparing it, which all contributed to the need to actually focus and really make sure what I was doing was perfect, which is pretty hard for me to do. The number one thing from all this, though, is how it was making me feel. Each photo or piece of footage I took that turned out well, I felt so much more connected to than the work I'd done digitally. There was so much less technology and machinery behind my photos, and so much more of what I'd created. It made me feel so much prouder and so much more accomplished. This was a feeling I kind of became addicted to. So I decided to take this journey the next step further. I knew how great it felt to take the photos and see them come to fruition. So I couldn't imagine how great developing them myself would feel. In this light, I built a darkroom. No, most of you would know what that is, but for those of you who don't, it is a space where the film is developed and printed to make a visual and physical photograph. When a photo is taken through a film camera, certain amounts of light hit a negative to create the photo. This negative then needs to be exposed to certain chemicals and machinery in order to make that come into a physical photograph. Now these days, a lot of people just take their film to photo stores or labs and get someone to do it there. It's an easy and affordable method that requires almost no human interaction. But back when film photography was the only method, almost every professional photographer or hobbyist had one of these rooms. It was a huge part of their process and was quite a special thing to be able to do. Now, going through this process for me was incredible because I was able to spending hours just to develop one roll of film and then being able to hold it in my hand and see what I'd created. It made all the work so worth it and all the work to come so great because I knew what would come out of it. It wasn't all easy though. I mean, I spilt so many chemicals on myself, I'm pretty much radioactive now. And it took me about 30 prints for me to even realize what I was doing. But that's all kind of what I'm trying to do, which is truly experience what I'm doing so that I can have a proper understanding and connection with the world around me and the things that I do every day, even if it takes a lot longer and a lot more work. This is kind of part of what I see the problem in our generation and technology. Because it's easier from the beginning for a lot of us, we don't develop a proper understanding of hard work or to even develop a good work ethic in general. I see this a lot in myself and a lot in my friends and younger, my brothers and sisters. When different types of technology were introduced in the past, people saw them as tools and not ways of cutting the time they could do something, but instead increase the amount they could do while still working just as hard. This is because of a work ethic that is built from having to do things by hand. Do things by hand or spend time figuring out solutions and understanding to any situation without the help of technology. I feel that my generation is kind of becoming lazy and will do almost anything not to have to take the long way around of doing something, even if it's more beneficial. For me, through using older and slower methods of film and photography, I was able to translate that into most tasks, and I still am trying to. The main thing that I'm trying to say through all this, though, is just the importance of generally connecting with what you do and leaving as much as you can up to your own natural ability and creativity. Technology is so incredible and is breaking limits of what we thought to be impossible every day. But that doesn't mean we need to let it replace our connection with the world around us. I implore you to try doing as much as you can I implore you to try doing as much as you can without the help of electronic equipment. Take the long way to do something if you can. And just spend time on your experiences. Whether that's just learning something from a book or a person, writing a letter instead of a Facebook post, or fixing your own car. I implore you to find your own darkroom. I think it could change your life and the world around us. Thank you.